Welcome to episode 12 of the Exactly Entertainment podcast. I am Matthew Lyons.
And I'm Derek Durrell.
And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about the legacy of Star Wars. Recently it was the 40th, well, this year is the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
And we recently saw it at AMC Theaters. And we're going to talk about how it holds up, the effects, the story, and where Star Wars stands today, 40 years later.
All right. Well, first of all, I had not seen the film in a long time before seeing it in theaters again for the 40th anniversary. So I remembered most of it, but there was a thing or two where I was like, oh, now that I see it again, I remember it. Um, I liked it a lot. Empire's never been one of the ones that like stood out to me extra in the Star Wars movies, even though I know like a lot of people like it the most.
Yeah.
So I think rewatching it, I definitely see more where they're coming from because it was good.
Yeah. I think a lot of people our age think of like the prequels when they think of Star Wars. I know
Hmm.
I certainly do.
Yeah,
I
me
know
too.
your favorite Star Wars movie is Revenge of the Sith.
Hmm.
So, and I don't think I've seen the movie in like I want to say like 10 years. Like it's
Really,
it's been a long time.
I don't think it was that long for me.
I had I don't have like DVD of the original trilogy. I had them on VHS and I haven't had a VHS uh player. Is that what they're called? VHS player?
I think so.
Whatever. A device that plays those videos in like a long, long time. Um, and yeah, it's been a long time. Like you said, there were some things I didn't remember. Spoiler alert: Darth Vader is actually Luke's father. No, of course I knew that, but like it's hard to forget like moments like that and like Han being like frozen because I don't know about you, but like the Family Guy Star Wars episodes and like Star Wars is such a big property and has such a huge influence on like pop culture. And it's even today you still see references to Luke, I am your father, and
Hmm.
things like that. People still dress up as Darth Vader for Halloween.
And that's not even a
Um,
line. That's the funniest part.
I know,
Like,
and people get
no,
that
I'm
wrong
your
all the time.
father. Yeah.
No,
No,
I
no.
am your
Yeah.
father. But talk about the effects. George Lucas
Yeah.
was a pioneer in
Absolutely.
visual effects, and like 40 years, and they still hold up. There are
Yeah.
movies from like 2010 Avatar that really don't hold up. You
Oh,
look at Endgame and it's crazy,
Aaron's
but
gonna hate you if he ever sees that one.
yeah, I mean, whatever. But in the so much of it is practical, and it's
Hmm.
it's crazy how much like I was never really distracted by like, ooh, that's outdated, or
Yeah,
ooh, that's
no. Like, they filmed a lot of like the bigger scenes with like miniatures and
yeah,
stuff like that, like the ships
mhm,
and stuff like that. And like you said, it looks really good. Like, yeah, I'd agree. Like, even movies made 30 years later don't even look as good of it as it in some cases, especially where like they try and do new things and it doesn't work.
right,
Where Star Wars tried to do new things 40 years ago and it did work. Yeah, no, it looks really good. Even like Yoda wasn't like too daunting to look at.
yeah.
And I thought it was really good. The effect wise, yeah.
The only like parts that I noticed were like when the Jesus, I don't know the names, like the abominable snowman thing, like in the beginning, and like some of the big creatures, the snow on
Yeah.
Hoth, like
Yeah,
the
the
way they kind of
Wampa.
move, like the stop motion.
Mhm.
Some of that was a little bit spotty at times, but like the big effects and explosions and the ships and everything, like it still holds up very well today.
Mm.
And like going off of like George Lucas's influence, like Christopher Nolan, you know how much he loves practical effects, and he still
Mhm.
uses like miniature models and like 1/6 scale models like on a lot of his films.
Yeah. It's so cool how they do that. Even in the prequels, you see that a lot. The whole like arena was done with like um that type of thing.
And you can't tell.
No, no, it looks good. Um, I thought the effects were great. I didn't have any complaints. I guess, to be honest, the area that the movie aged the most for me was like the dialogue and the way people talk
Oh
to
yeah.
each other was just different back then than it is today.
Hmm.
Um, especially where the way Han talks to Leia, like a lot of that, like these days would be considered like toxic masculinity and like stuff like that. Where
Yeah.
like back then it was just kind of normal. Um, where I mean, I didn't really like it didn't like take away. I'm not like, oh, I don't like Han Solo
Yeah.
anymore. He's a complete asshole. Like, no,
Yeah.
like, um, but it's just like weird because you just don't hear people talk like that anymore. And then to go back and watch that, it's like, oh right, like that's like a thing. Um,
I remember
like
as soon as the movie was over, you were like, Jesus, like Han like really grabbed Leia's hand kind of hard there.
yeah, like a little like pushy.
Yeah.
Like
If that was released
it's
today, like Han, definitely we would have got Me Too'd for sure.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's that's for sure, yeah. But I think that's where it aged the most. Even, like I'm trying to think like specifics here, but like certain expressions they would make just were like a little dated and stuff like that. Nothing like obviously they weren't like, oh, I went to like the Blockbuster or anything like that, but just like because it's Star Wars and it's not outdated in that way. But just like I'm trying to even think of specific cases. Just the way they'd be like much more like snappy with each other, opposed like I don't know. There were a lot of things where it's like that's just not how people have conversations anymore. Like one liner back and forth, um,
Right.
opposed to having conversations and just talking normally. I do love in Star Wars when they use like Star Wars lingo to like insult each other, like oh you scruffy looking nerf herder or whatever. Like I don't know what a nerf herder is,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I liked that stuff, but yeah,
I think, I mean, going back to like how we value the prequels so
right,
much, we have been spoiled with incredible lightsaber duels.
yes,
And I mean, even with that like Scene 38 remastered that these incredible YouTubers did, like, but as like incredible as those are, and as much as I like when I think of Star Wars, I think of those epic like Luke versus Anakin, not Luke
Anakin
versus
versus
Anakin,
Obi-Wan,
yeah, like
yeah,
um like I didn't really like miss that, like because the lightsaber battle at the end with Luke and Vader, I mean it's like, much more like emotional, and there's not as much like flashiness, and I think it worked for the story. And I think when I was going into the theater, I think I mentioned to you like I was, that was, I felt like that was going to take me out of the film a little bit,
yeah.
but I was surprised that it didn't.
See, if you were watching A New Hope, I think it would. I think the one in Empire is a lot better,
Yeah.
and the one in Return of the Jedi is not bad either. At the end with Vader versus Luke,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I really like the one in Empire. I like how Vader has like very precise like strikes and blocks where
Hmm.
Luke's kind of just going at him, and then Luke will fall down the stairs, and I like when he falls into the freezing chamber, and then he jumps out.
Yeah.
Like that type of stuff was really cool. And then obviously I like how that duel ends is just iconic, most iconic scene in Star Wars. And yeah, the duels, no, I didn't have any issues there. I didn't really have any issues throughout. I thought, the whole movie was pretty good. I think 40 years later, it definitely holds up. I wouldn't say that it's any worse than it was 40 years ago, to be honest.
Yeah. I think the most notable thing for me walking out of the film was the score.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows the dun, 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 like the classic like credit roll thing, and like some of the major scores, but like even the ones that like aren't really
In
as
your face.
iconic,
Yeah.
and yeah, in your face, like those like John Williams score is incredible.
Dude, he's so good.
It's so iconic.
Like even like I think it's just the Bespin theme or whatever that
Hmm.
they played like most of the time when they were in Cloud City. You could hear it is so good.
Yeah.
Everything, every piece of music in there is amazing. Um, yeah. Little things that we maybe forgot. I forgot about the whole conversation that Luke and Vader have at the end.
Yeah, me too.
I completely forgot about that. And it's weird because like it felt like such a new thing when Rey and Kylo did that in the sequels, but it's like Vader and Luke did it right here,
Yeah.
like in the original trilogy. Um, with like that Force FaceTime type of thing that they do. They just didn't show it in the same way they did. That's the same Force ability that was happening. That's just not like the way they showed it.
Yeah.
Um, I missed that. I know you mentioned like you forgot that Yoda like didn't act like Yoda when he first got
Yeah.
there, and he's like kind of playing an act on him.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I think of Yoda, I mean, I think of the wise, like, judge
Grandmaster
me
Yoda.
by my size, do you? You know, that I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
do
yeah.
Yoda, but like, yeah, exactly. Grandmaster, wise, smart, old. And like when he's first, like his first few lines, he's like, kind of like he's like a troll and he's like a joke. And I was kind of caught
Yeah,
off guard. I was like, wait a minute, Grandmaster Yoda, what are you doing?
right.
And I was kind of like, that's weird. And then it wasn't until you explained that like once you rewatch it, you realize that he's playing a trick on him and he was just testing his patience.
Right.
And I was like, oh shit, now it makes sense.
Yeah, because you got to think if you're watching that movie for the first time, like when I would have seen that movie for the first time, I would have already known who Yoda was from like the Clone Wars TV show or from the
Right.
prequels, or just like I don't know, buying a toy. Like
Star.
I would just know who like Legos or whatever. Like
Mhm.
I would just know who Yoda was. But if you're seeing that movie for the first time 40 years ago, you have no idea that this little green guy's Yoda, you know?
Mhm.
You hear at the beginning of the movie, go find Grandmaster Yoda who trained me. You know, that's what Obi-Wan says.
Yeah.
And you expect like some like either like an Obi-Wan, like an old like man type of thing, or you expect like a great warrior. And when you see Yoda, it's it's very like, oh, he's gonna show me where Yoda is. That's what he says. Oh, I know Yoda. But then he just goes on to test his patience over and over again and steal his
Mhm.
food. And it's all an act. And even Obi-Wan like contributes to that act because neither of them tell Luke that Vader's his father.
Yeah.
And like it's I saw another theory that R2D2 is also part of the act because obviously he knows Yoda from the prequels.
Right.
So Yoda, I think they look at each other at one point and like they're like, all right, like just like bear with me here. Um, but even at in A New Hope, he's like Obi-Wan and R2 like knew each other for sure from the prequels.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, I don't ever remember owning a droid." And that's only half true because like he obviously didn't own R2, but he does know him.
Yeah.
So that stuff's just super interesting how even R2's in on this act and everyone's doing this certain type of manipulation on Luke to like make him the Jedi he has to be, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was neat. But yeah, it's pretty funny the way he's just like giggling and he's hitting
Yeah.
things with his cane and he's crawling all over the place and he goes into like the communications device. He like crawls in there. But yeah, um, it's always funny when you rewatch a movie and you forget something like that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the legacy of Star Wars. So, I mean, it's been over 40 years. It's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know we liked Rise of Skywalker. I don't know if your opinion has changed since we last saw it,
No,
but
I stand strong.
yeah, I mean, I get like from a film point why people thought it sucked, but from a Star Wars fan perspective, I liked it.
I agree.
But we have The Mandalorian, which universally everyone loves, and
Mm-hmm.
that's getting a season 2. But they are making a new trilogy, which I mean, due to COVID, won't happen like for a long time. and there was an Obi-Wan show on Disney Plus, but that's been delayed and it's been shelved. So, what is Star Wars going to look like? Because after Last Jedi, the fan base was like divided hard,
Hmm.
and even more so after Rise of Skywalker. So,
Yeah.
do you think that Star Wars is going to last another 40 years? And if so, is it going to be as revered as it was or is? Or do you think that, you know, Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi and, if these new films suck, do you think that's going to kind of tarnish its reputation a little bit?
Well, that's a loaded question,
It
but
is, yeah.
I it's hard. You never know what it's going to look like because when the prequels first came out, they were very hated. Now,
Mhm.
I think they're hated for different reasons than the sequels are hated. Um, by like the masses, but you never know what time's going to do to the sequels, you know,
Yeah.
or what else they make is going to make the sequels seem better in retrospect, or what else, they're going to do with that. But I don't see Star Wars going away. I think that Disney bought it. I think they made a long-term investment, and I think they will be making Star Wars for a very far past when me and you are off this planet. They will be still making Star Wars.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's such like, I mean, it's a galaxy. Like, even if it's not like, Star Wars with like Obi-Wan and, Mandalorians and whatever, like there's so many different stories you can
dude,
tell.
even if there's no Force, there's no Jedi.
Yeah.
There's unlimited, truly unlimited stories they could make in the Star Wars universe, and I think they will.
Yeah.
I think, and we've talked about this with similar topics, with The Walking Dead, and I think we did Breaking Bad, what else we want to see in those universes. And I think it's the same with Star Wars. I want to see more like separate things throughout the timeline. I want to see Old Republic. I want to see what happens years after everything else happens. You don't even have to do that. You could have something happening at the same time on the unknown regions or the other side of the galaxy or anything like that. I think what needs to happen is someone needs to really grab creative control because what it feels like is happening right now is very impulsive. Oh, they like this, give them more of that. They didn't like this, let's not do a Star Wars movie for 3 years because they didn't like this one. Like they need to come up with a plan like Kevin Feige does with Marvel. They need to make a plan and they need to stick to it. Whether people like what they made or not, they need to just like continue on their path. Because what happens is one thing doesn't go well, then the Boba Fett show's canceled, then the Obi-Wan show's shelved, then this and that and that.
Yeah.
And maybe it is for the better that those things are delayed or shelved, but you can't just abandon them or decide to wait extra time just because one thing does bad. And I think another part of it is Kathleen Kennedy is currently in charge of Star Wars.
Hmm.
And personally, I don't agree with her views on Star Wars. I don't think she knows it like some other people at Lucasfilm do. I think no one knows the Star Wars better than George Lucas himself. But other than that is Dave Filoni.
Hmm.
And he's proven that time and time again. And I don't know if you've seen, I think it's in episode 2 of the Mandalorian documentary
Hmm.
where he makes this huge speech about
Rant.
Duel of
Yeah.
the Fates
Yeah.
that's like insane. And that just goes to show like how much time he's spent with George Lucas and how well he knows Star Wars.
And how much he cares about Star Wars.
Exactly. And you know, I think if Kathleen Kennedy sees that what he's doing is working and kind of says, okay, like I'll still okay everything, I'll still give my ideas, but I want you to like kind of take charge. I think if Dave Filoni takes charge, like it seems like he's doing, I think we'll see some good stuff. And I think that, that will be the closest thing we'll ever get to seeing George Lucas's legacy continued and what he wanted for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope that he kind of takes the reins there. What do you think about your question that you asked me?
You mean my questions? I had like 5 and 1, but
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I mean like studios want money, and Star Wars can make a boatload of money, even if fans don't like it. I
Yeah.
mean, and from a business perspective, it's a cash grab with everything. I mean, they have like Star Wars at like Disneyland now. They have a whole Star
Yeah.
Wars
No,
like
slap the Star Wars title on anything and it's gonna sell.
yeah, and I mean with Disney Plus, Mandalorian is fine, even though like I mean we'll see how season 2 does, but um and I think like there's still like such a want for Ewan McGregor to continue as Obi-Wan. And I think like they should continue like stories of like the of 1 through 9 and on like Disney Plus,
Yeah.
and with the Mandalorian kind of like expand on that universe. But I want to see new stories with the movies. Create new Lukes, new Obi-Wans, new Darth Vaders that like not that will last like 3 movies, but that will last 40 years.
Right.
Do something new and interesting that it doesn't necessarily need to be like interwoven and like, have like 4 different cameos from like people in
Right.
the Skywalker saga, but like have it be in Star Wars. If some people don't like it, they don't have to acknowledge it, but hopefully it'll be just a great addition to this galaxy.
I think that's a perfect format. I think if they go for new, unique stories, even if it's on a known Star Wars planet,
Yeah,
maybe not one as known as Tatooine, but maybe one of the lesser known ones like Camino or Felucia, or one of the lesser known ones. And then it's connected enough. Maybe it's during the time of the Republic. Maybe you have a story about a group of clones, so it's still tied in. But I feel like that is the type of stuff I'd want to see on Disney Plus.
yeah,
Like you said, I think Disney Plus is a perfect place to fill in those blanks. Obi-Wan show, Ahsoka show, Boba Fett show, whoever you want to learn more about, Darth Maul show would be awesome. Whatever you want as a character or as an idea to be explored more, Disney Plus. But then when it comes to the movies, I think they should do The Old Republic and have ancient Jedi fighting
yeah.
armies of ancient Sith. And
Hmm.
it's like full on warfare, Jedi versus Sith, like ancient times, except with like lightsabers and stuff. Like that would be so cool. Or, maybe it happens after episode 9, but it's a completely new story, you know?
Yeah,
And you could also go into different genres. Make a like Lost in Space, like horror on like a ship and all like the lights are out. Make like a horror Star Wars movie. Make a comedy where they're like at a cantina, like joking around or something like that. I don't know. But like
yeah.
there's so many different ways you could go with Star Wars. And it would be a shame for them to only go back to what's already existed and only work off of all this different stuff. And I thought that's what was happening with The Mandalorian. But now, with all this news about season 2, they're bringing this character and that character into it. And it's almost like, yes, I want to see more Ahsoka. I want to see more Captain Rex. I want to see more Boba Fett. But, like, why here? Why in this original story
Yeah.
that is, like, so good? And I want to see it focused on this original story that you got me to like.
Hmm.
Because next time, there might be an original story that's just not for me, you know? So keep the stuff that people already know and love separate from this new stuff you're trying. Don't rely so much on this old stuff, you know?
Yeah. Or like do what it seems like they're doing with the MCU on Disney Plus. Have like these interesting shows that focus on character development that lead up to these big, like huge action set pieces. Like,
Yeah.
it looks like they're doing with like Sword and like Disney Plus and Wanda and like setting up this multiverse so that in the movies they don't have to spend so much time on exposition.
Right.
They can just kind of like, have these epic fight scenes or action scenes. And as for like the legacy of Star Wars, I completely agree with you. It's not going anywhere. I mean, Batman survived Batman and Robin. I mean, there were bat credit cards, and we got over that. And now Batman is like back and better than ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I
Yeah, you're
mean,
right.
as long as Disney and Lucasfilm get their house in order. They focus on the story. They get people who care in charge. I think Star Wars can be as good as it was.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one final thing that's really cool, that's a theory, is that what they're trying to do is make almost like mini MCUs between movies. So what happens is when you have the Han Solo movie going on, you also have the Obi-Wan show happening at the same time. And since Maul's in one of them, Maul was in Solo, then that like Maul from that age, right after he did that, is also in this one. And then
Right.
that's also in the Cassian Andor show that they're making. Like maybe like rumors of Obi-Wan, like or whatever it may be. But there's these ideas that they're all connected, and then there's gonna be like a little small MCU type of thing after episode 6 where the Mandalorian takes place because Ahsoka's on it. Then Ahsoka's going to have a spinoff that takes place right after that, and then they keep continuing like that. Maybe they do one, right before the prequels with the High Republic, which is what is like the group right before like the normal Republic kind of takes over. And they do like a few shows with that or a few movies with that and interweave them. So stuff like that's pretty neat. There's a lot of directions they could go. Like you said, Star Wars isn't going anywhere. Any closing thoughts?
No. I think that's
we
it.
covered it.
Yeah.
Star Wars is here to stay. Watch what you like. Don't watch what you don't like. And everyone will be happy.
All right. Thanks for listening, and tune in to the next episode of the Exactly Entertainment Podcast.